The recording is going now and we are being live streamed. Wanted to let everybody know that our Public Works Director, Brian Harmon, is joining us by Zoom, available to answer questions, as well as Chief Larry Larson. I'm going to turn it over to Chair Fox.
6:05, we will call the May 31st, 2022 Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting to order. Have a roll call.
Yes, we have Mayor Smith and Councilor Lyman joining us by Zoom. In person, we have Councilor Fox, Linda Krieger, Elise Laundrie, Todd Waters, Terry Dawson, and Jeff Malone. Absent is Marcus Alexander, Patricia McConnell, Nancy Bell, Paul Thompson, and Kyle Blaine. We do have a quorum.
With a quorum, we're going to seek the approval of the Urban Renewal Agency budget committee, minutes, May 25th, 2021. I got a green light. Okay. So are there any corrections? There are no recommended changes. I will entertain a motion to approve the May 25th, 2021 Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee minutes.
I so move.
Second. Have first by Linda Krieger and second by Terry Dawson. All those in favor?
Hands up, right.
Oh, that's right. Hands up. We can see them. Opposed or abstentions? It passes unanimously. Okay, so Emily, do we have any signed up for public comment?
Maybe not.
Okay, hearing none, we will move on. The Urban Renewal Agency budget message from Tim Gaines.
Hey everybody, welcome. So our Urban Renewal Agency's chief goal is to help with the sewer debt fund. That's mainly what it does. We do have some administrative costs within the fund. Something we talked about a little bit in the past is that our taxes didn't come in this year like we had kind of hoped they would. They were lower, and we are investigating that in the process of that, early in the investigation of that. And actually, Ann has some information she was going to share on that. On the taxes, we're still really early in the process, but we do have some information.
Yeah, I've had several conversations with the county asking why this would have happened. And I finally got to the point and asked them to please send me a report of every property in the county and their values and what they were taxed or what the receipts were expected on the properties. We were able to identify several properties that have either requested or for whatever reason, the values were lowered on those properties. One of them was substantial. And so we completed our analysis. We went ahead and built an analysis that showed what the information that they provided to us. And then we went ahead and added going back a year ourselves by going into the county website. And so right now we're looking at those to figure out which properties are the largest. And then we will be having another conversation with the county to find out why it is that those properties have gone down in value. One particular specifically. So that will be our next step in this. It's not going to help us at budget time, but we also have let us know that they will be out this year to reassess our industrial area. So that needs to happen before January in order to go on the next year. So we're continuing the conversation with them. We're so small that they don't get their feathers ruffled a lot because we're small, but the questions still need to be answered.
You said every property in the county. Did you mean community?
No, in the URA, every property within the urban growth bound, or not the area, sorry. Yeah,
Too many acronyms.
too many acronyms, the Urban Renewal Agency. So every single property within the Urban Renewal Agency, we got the information for. And then we did an analysis on them ourselves.
And how many had reduced in value?
I think there was about 15 to 20 at the top that had some form of a reduction, and not some of them not very big, and a couple substantially. So we just have to follow up with the county to ask why it is. And there's been a request by the business owner, I'm guessing. So
They don't have a process where they notify you when.
they do not notify us. We have to go looking for them to ask why.
So any questions specifically about the budget? It's very small, as you probably saw. It's one page, and I'm really even a page, but that's because it really has one purpose. There are some, like I said, some administrative costs, but mostly it's to help fund the sewer bond.
Can I ask a quick question?
You bet.
On the tax receipt history,
Mhm.
at the very bottom line for the coming fiscal year, it's the received amount is lower. Is that just, I'm assuming that's because we anticipate not receiving the full.
Yeah, we anticipate 98%, and that's it's
Okay.
using that number next to it, that 90% to
you.
compute it.
Thanks.
So it's a projection.
Question? Hearing none. Gonna move on. And consider the Urban Renewal Agency budget for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Seek a motion. A second. Is there some questions? We'll digest them. So moved. The 2022-2023 budget has been moved by Jeff Milan. Oh, Todd Waters, and second by Jeff Milan. All those in favor? Raise hands. Say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. At this point, we will adjourn the 2022-23 Budget Committee, Urban Renewal Budget Committee meeting at exactly 6:14. Just like the prior meeting, this meeting will be in person and through Zoom. And to participate in Zoom, you will need to register. You should have registered in advance. At 6:15, we will call the City of Coburg Budget Committee meeting to order. A roll call.
Joining by Zoom, we have Mayor Smith, Counselor Lehman. In person, we have John Fox, Linda Krieger, Elise Landry, Todd Waters, Terry Dawson, and Jeff Malone. Absent is Marcus Alexander, Patricia McConnell, Nancy Bell, Paul Thompson, and Kyle Blaine. We do have a quorum.
Is there any public comment signed up? Hearing none, we'll move on to the public hearing. Resolution 2022-12, resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenues. The Oregon Revised Statute requires a public hearing to be held by the Budget Committee, giving citizens the opportunity to discuss possible uses of the funds. Public hearing for resolution 2022-12A, a resolution declaring the city's election to receive state revenues at 6:16. And Tim Gaines for the staff report.
Hello again. So yes, this resolution is required for us to receive state funds that we do qualify for. We can certainly not pass this resolution, but then we don't get, it's not free money for sure, but part of our budget, state shared revenues, we would not get them if we do not pass this resolution. We have to do that annually at every budget meeting. So I would certainly be happy to take any questions on the resolutions. Pretty standard and basic.
If there are no questions. And is there, once again, the public testimony? Is there anyone signed up for public testimony? Oh, okay. Shocked. I will now close the public hearing at 6:17. A second public hearing is scheduled for June 14th, 2022. Since we had no questions on the first round, we will have no follow-up questions.
Great.
Okay, so the proposed 2022-2023 budget review.
Yeah, so I sent an email out to you all. Should have asked this at the end of the last meeting. I apologize for not doing that, but wanted to see if there's any special stuff y'all wanted. I didn't get a lot of response on that, but I did bring some stuff that we talked about that seemed like areas that you might want to get into a little more, and a couple requests. But first one is the financial condition sheet that there was a little bit of discussion on regarding the capital assets. So the question was, wow, why did it drop so much? And it didn't, honestly. It was a typographical error. Once I looked at the number, I was like, yikes. Not good for that to happen, but not the end of the world. Just have to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it actually, instead of being 19,419,000, it was 29. And that was in the audit report. So I double checked it and triple checked it. And so I apologize for that. That's not something we want to have happen, but it is actually about where it should be.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that seems more reasonable. It seemed rather astronomical.
Yeah,
for
and
1
it
year
that
decline.
can happen, but our system's still pretty new. I mean, I guess I'm comparing it to my prior employer. I'm talking about the wastewater system mainly, and then we're also, working on our water system, so it's going to be a newer system as well. So it can happen, but not usually. When I saw the number, I was like, oh, trying to figure it out here in front of you guys is pretty difficult. So figured out. And then one of the other requests was Elise had asked for abbreviations or acronyms. Yeah, the word we use a lot. And so what I did is I just added acronyms to the bottom of each page, at the end of each page, that kind of just explains what the acronyms for the funding source are. So does that look like what you guys would like to see?
That's great. Thank you, Tim. I
You bet.
appreciate it.
I'd love to take any questions on that. It's pretty basic stuff. But you tend to at your employment, a lot of folks use acronyms and we get used to them. And not everybody knows exactly what those letters mean sometimes. So
It's very helpful for.
great. We'll keep doing that. And as we add, if we do add, we'll just keep adding to the key. So any other questions on that document? And the last document I brought is just the largest decreases. There was a lot more than what I listed here. Typically, these are projects that have either been completed or possibly moved to a different fund. An example of that would be the stormwater master plan is still there, as we still have it. We moved it from the general fund to the street fund. And for example, the bike kiosk, we have completed the spending on that. I don't think it's completed, but we don't have any more expenses at this point. So it's a completed project. The street overlay, that really large number there that went to 0. We just now have projects identified and we gave them their own lines based on their actual costs. So unfortunately, there's still a large expenditure to be made. It's just not in a bigger bucket, so to speak. Any other questions on this?
Hearing no further questions. So thank you for the presentation,
You bet.
and we will consider approval and recommendation to the city council for the your fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Are we satisfied with the budget? Are there any further questions of the budget before I entertain a motion? Entertain a motion and a second for 2022-2023 budget. Motion by Terry Dawson and a second by Linda Grieger. All those in favor? Abstentions? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. We sure appreciate your service.
Thank you. So we're doing something novel this year. We're going to actually recruit and look at applications during the budget committee meeting rather than just the city council looking them over and appointing them. So we have 2 applications, one from a current member and one from a new applicant. And we're in the back of your package. Tim Waters and Laura Tyron.
Question.
Tryon.
Question.
Yes. You have a-
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How many positions are open?
So we have 2 positions that the terms expired June 30th, 2022. So,
Positions to fill.
right, so we have 2 positions to fill. It was Paul Thompson was a sitting member and Todd Waters. As you're familiar, I sent an email out asking the people who are currently holding the seats if they'd like to resubmit their application. If they choose to, then we put them in the pool. Todd has agreed to be considered for a new term, and I did not hear from Mr. Thompson. And we did receive 1 application. Budget committee has been a recruitment for a year. this year
Mhm.
until we got a lease. Because Sharon Taylor left us last year, and so it's been in all of the art towns. So I'm really going to be excited not to post it or have it on my to-do list. And have a full committee.
Assuming that they're like brought onto the committee.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that a hit? Was that a hit?
This could be the most contentious
And
part of the
nobody
meeting.
leaves. I'm sure Laura's great.
Thank you.
Has everyone had a chance to review the applicants? Applications? Any questions of the applicants?
I have questions for each. Since he has a mic already, if that's. Our friends, so, but this is an actual question. You were just commenting on how, you know, outdated or how much a blast from the past the application was, you know, that you were reading through. So you completed 2 terms. How do you feel about the evolution of, you know, the process in your time here over 6 years?
That's a really good question. Say the first thing that comes to mind for me, and actually I came in, I think, right around when you guys changed the process in which budget committee was ran or handled. And so I can't compare it to that. Just the most recent evolution since 2017, I suppose, was when I started up. Enjoyed the addition of the presentations from each individual department within the city. And I think that side of the budget committee process, whether it's in person or in Zoom, helps to just stay focused. Especially that first meeting can be very long and there's a lot of things that are discussed and a lot of questions and conversation that occurs. And so it can be easy, especially on Zoom, to get lost a little bit. Having those presentations in there and then having kind of the physical printed copies of it so you can follow along on your own or go back and look, or it's super helpful. So I would say that the experience for me has been great. I had no experience prior to joining this budget committee, and as a newcomer to that, it was pretty easy for me to kind of figure it out as we went and follow along, understand what was going on. So it's been really enjoyable for me.
I have a question. You've been on for 5 years? And you live in Coburg 1 year. Are we allowed to, I mean, I'm so curious about that.
Well, this was from 2017.
Oh, this is.
Yeah. So at the time I lived in Coburg for a year.
So
Now I
now.
have lived in Coburg much longer.
The problem with refreshing the old application. Like, wow.
Nice to meet you, Terry. There are several committees that you've applied for. I don't know where invitations have come or you know, which of them ultimately you hope to serve on. And so I just wanted to inquire about that. I've served on several of the committees that you've applied for. And I can see, based on the answers to your questions, that you could serve well in any or maybe all of them. But I also know that all of them are, you know, become a bit much.
Sure.
So I was just curious where you felt among those might be your, you know, your best fit, what things that are most attractive. You know, this is great because there's usually only 2 or 3 meetings a year. It's not real exhaustive in, you know, in time, but I was just wondering what your take might be.
Well, having been lived here for 10 years, I was really just wanting to start being a part of the community. And so I really thought planning and budget and finance, because that's where I've lived my entire life and profession, kind of all went together. And so this historic preservation was more of a, oh, that'd be kind of cool, type of thing. But I honestly don't know the time commitment for any single one of those. So I was just, throwing my hat out there to see where I could step in and be a part.
Good for you. And thank you for doing that. I actually serve on the finance audit committee also. And I know that these two at least
Sure.
can be done in
Hand in
tandem.
hand, sure.
And at one time, while doing both of those, I was also on the Historic Preservation Heritage Committee. So, there certainly are ways that can be done, but sometimes people's interests or gifts are better suited or more
Mhm.
tailored to certain roles. So thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions? See that you've been here 10 years, that's still 10 years.
Yes. 10 plus 7, no.
If there are no further questions, I would seek a motion and a second to recommend to the city council that Todd Waters and Laura Tryon be appointed to serve 3-year terms expiring June 30th, 2025.
I absolutely would move.
Terry Dawson,
Second that.
and seconded by Jeff Milan. Oh, sorry.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years. We'll
10
figure it
years.
out.
A few more. Okay. All those in favor, raise hands, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions.
I shouldn't vote for myself, but I do vote for her.
We have a unanimous vote for Laura Tryon, and we have a vote of one abstention and all the rest in favor for
Is that wrong?
no, you
We
can do
We
that.
don't know.
Shouldn't vote for myself.
This is why we're friends.
Yeah, that's-
I keep it that way, and if there's no other comments, we do have Ann.
I do always want to give the budget committee a chance to let us know if there's anything that we could do better. This went very smooth this year to the point that it made the staff a little uncomfortable. I'm gonna be honest with you. But they did do a lot of hard work in the front end. And so if there's anything that we could do better or you'd like to see that would help you with this process, please let us know, because we actually do make notes and keep it for the next year. So
Okay.
please let
Terry?
us know.
I think this has been great. The only thing that I would want to offer as a suggestion to consider is we've transitioned from longer department head budget presentations to only written ones. And I think there may be a benefit in finding something that's in between those two options. Maybe it is only, a 10-minute, not rehash of what is written summary. And I don't really want to put any of the department heads on the spot. I know them or most of them, maybe all of them. And I know that it's not necessarily anyone's favorite thing to do, and I can appreciate that. But there is something about that kind of face-to-face turn of emphasis that we're able to draw from, which was something that Todd was just commenting on as well. It seems like that just might be a benefit to us. So Our role has changed a lot as the process has changed. And we've gone more practically from advise and consent to mostly just consent. Not that advise isn't welcome or invited, but in doing it this way, there's even less opportunity for interaction on these things. And so I think that might be helpful to the process, not hours, but minutes. So just
I
a thought.
think that all of the directors would be very happy to do that. They are not afraid of presentation at all. And this was just way it was handled so that it, because it's a hybrid meeting and Zoom is hard for some people, that we've tried to make it as simple as possible. But they actually would be very happy to give you their high points.
Well, the
and-
stand-up
or their
routine that
high
we get out of
priorities.
Brian, just because he has to do so many presentations, is worth the
Right.
price of admission. So.
Yeah.
Terry? Anything specific that you would like to see? Yeah, I mean, more project related or specifically funding and how the budget has changed? Can you think of anything you'd like to really narrow in on in their presentation, their abbreviated presentation?
Not so much. I think in making the suggestion, the thing that's attractive to me, Ray, is the perspective by which the department head can reflect on what really rises to the top. You know, I mean, if they only have 10 minutes and, you know, they've got 4 pages of report, they're not going to be able to convey all of that. So there will be the 2 or 3 or 4 things that to them seem to be the best things to communicate, to make their needs known, and in the same time of presenting requests, to also almost inadvertently report on how things are going. And I just think that would be helpful reference for us. I wouldn't want to tie their hands, and rather give them the opportunity to reflect on what might be the most important points to bring up. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, and I think that's important because one of the major intents for this new process, Todd, now old process, was really trying to get the department heads out there so that they could communicate to the council and the budget committee. And so if we look at that and say, you guys pick it, what's important to you that you want to get across to us? And you know, obviously COVID and now the mixed studio setting made it a little difficult for us to go with that process. But I do agree. I'd like to see the department heads get up and be able to make a presentation and keep that limitation, because as we know, those full presentations were taking 5 and 6 hours of our time. And I think the book written, you know, everything printed and in front of us and homework is a really good idea for us to be able to get our questions in the evening when we're reading and write those down. But then to hear that priority and that face-to-face with the department heads is a part that's missing.
And I think I would also say that, and I can understand why this would be of lesser import, but from my perspective, there is something about a personal presentation that assists in the development of relationship that we have with the people in those roles. And I would actually consider, you know, the department heads that I know friends, and I wouldn't have a problem with calling them or stopping by to chat with them, but not everybody's going to feel exactly the same way. Not everybody has been around as long. Someone else might be new and not feel like they have the same access, or you know, maybe they're more introverted and less extroverted, and you know, so that's a less comfortable situation for them. That kind of presentation opens the door, not just for the information, but for those relationships to be developed. And I think there's an advantage to that, especially in a community our size.
I totally agree. That was one of the major goals when we stepped forward in this process, was to have that conversation and that relationship. So I totally agree with you, Terry. Thank you.
As far as the binder goes, is the binder sufficient? Is it enough information for you? Was it easy? Useful to you with the way that we are doing it?
It's very well organized.
Yes. Really
Color
useful.
coding.
I'd say it's plenty.
Thank you.
But you know, so and asking for the personal presentations, I would not think it would be a good idea to reduce the written reporting in any way. I think the complete reports, the budget messages for the departments and all as presented are great. Because then there is time to read them and think on them and underline in them and, you know, get questions answered from them. And I know they're probably at times a bit tedious to create, but I think they really are valuable.
Yes.
Well, I think this year was a red herring with the tax stuff. So, because I just assumed because of pandemic, people were delaying in paying taxes, not that their property values had gone down. So the only thing I would think is next year is put out a feeler in April to see if we're gonna have any surprises next year. Hopefully it
Well,
wouldn't be
just to
so
explain that, we did for the city and usually the city and the URA track together, and we're given the year last year and what, because the city, we received more than we anticipated. We caught off guard by all of a sudden that there is a, you know, there's some businesses that have evidently requested a reduction, but yes, we will be doing that.
And do we have recourse?
I don't know the answer to that, Terry. I will have to ask that when I have my next conversation.
Terry, are you talking about recourse on the reduction?
Yes.
Exactly.
The appeal process, when we went through it several years ago with Coburg North, there was nothing except you could be a public speaker at their hearing for the appeal. And they made the judgment, the property owner makes the argument, and then they make the judgment on that value.
Thank you.
Any other questions? None. We'll adjourn the meeting at 6:43 PM. Thank you all.